Thank you to Professor Mendes, the Director of the Directorate for Education and Vocational Training of the European Commission. We now have three very pleasant and interesting speakers, each of whom has 15 minutes, and then we will have a question and answer session afterwards. The gentleman who will speak now is Professor Stefano Tirati, Director of CSCS, Europe Mobility Network, who will talk about raising quality and quantity of work placements abroad.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I'll do my best in order to keep these 15 minutes. I start my counter. So I've been asked to introduce introduce this initiative called the Euro Mobility Network, and the main focus of my contribution today would be try to answer to this question: how can we increase and increase significantly the volume of mobility, and particularly work placements abroad, while keeping the quality of these exchanges, because sometimes these two things do not go very well together, and with the increase of funding from Erasmus+, we will face this challenge. So what is the state of the art? The objectives of Education and Training 2020 are quite clear and quite ambitious, and depending on how you measure the current situation and depending on the countries, it looks like we are quite far from reaching these objectives. So I might say that we have 7 years very busy ahead of us in order to achieve these objectives. So before actually talking about Euromobility, I would like to just briefly mention my profile. I'm an educator, and yes, in the early 90s I accomplished my Erasmus exchange in London. Then I did a work placement in Paris under Comet, which is maybe the predecessor of Leonardo da Vinci and Erasmus placement. And so, yeah, we're talking about the other millennium, unfortunately, but still this experience was really very important and really shaped my life. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank those who have established Erasmus in the first instance. I don't know if I'm allowed. May I ask who is a part of the Erasmus generation? May you raise your hand, just for curiosity, who have accomplished some exchange? Yes, some. Yeah. Sorry? Thank you very much. Special beer or something for you. Okay, so as a consequence of this, currently I'm serving within EFET, European Forum for Vocational Education and Training, one of the leading umbrella organizations for VET with 1,500 members in Europe, trying to promote within this framework international cooperation among VET. And in the organization I work, CSCS in Italy, among other things, we try to promote at different levels, in different streams, learning mobility under Leonardo da Vinci, Erasmus placement, as well as from its beginning, Erasmus for Young Entrepreneurs from 2008. As well as in other funding framework like ESF. We were cooperating with this IDA program, Integration Through Work. Sorry, I cannot pronounce in German. And we heard that this program, which was very successful, is now promoted by the German government in maybe 9 or 10 other countries. So we wish all the success to this initiative. So, how did we start with Euromobility? In fact, our starting point was in the preparatory actions of the lifelong learning program, and in particular with this study, MOVE-IT study, where we partly cooperated in some research activities, which produced a number of, we believe, very relevant and interesting recommendations. Partly are still valid today, after 7 years. So basically what we did, we tried to implement some of these recommendations. So, for example, there were this objective of raising awareness about the benefits of mobility. So we launched a European video contest for learning mobility, where youngsters going abroad could share their experience. Currently, we are implementing the 5th annual edition of this video contest. I managed to bring some brochures about this, which are at the registration desk. So if you're interested to help us in promoting this initiative, we would be thankful. The political objective for this initiative was to gather some very effective measures to promote the concept of learning mobility made by youngsters. Another aspect that we took on board was concerned with this support mechanism. So we established an international community of mobility coordinators. For us, mobility coordinators being those responsible for conceiving and implementing learning mobility schemes, those who are on the ground. So we had this idea to try to create synergies between VET providers, mobility coordinators from higher education, as well as those from non-formal education. So you might say it is a bizarre idea. Why should they cooperate with each other? Because actually they don't speak with each other. But we believe that, in fact, especially in the field of practical experiences abroad or work placements abroad, there could be many synergies because in the essence, the experience, the process is very similar. So that's why we open the community to the three sectors. Actually, currently, maybe 80% of the 240 members are from VET, whereas the 20% is from higher education, non-formal education. But still, we are working on this. And as you see from these figures, we have now reached quite a significant critical mass. So nearly 500,000 learners and 15,000 exchanges each year. So our next challenge is to promote cooperation among our members in order to really create synergies among them. So within Euromobility, we have identified, let's say, 5 clusters, 5 key factors for success or bottlenecks. It depends on how you see. So currently there's no time to go into depth into each of these chapter clusters, which are conceived as thematic commissions or working groups looking at best practices in these different dimensions. But I would like to mention a few experiences in this field. In the field of quality, we have observed during the lifelong learning program that many projects, many initiatives have been accomplished on mobility, quality on mobility. So we made a European observatory of these initiatives, and based on the findings of this research, we have developed our own quality development tool, which is a sort of a self-assessment tool for mobility coordinators, showing what we think should be accomplished before, during, and after the exchange, and also in a 4th dimension of continuous quality improvement. We hope that this quality development tool is in line with what you envisage for the accreditation of VET providers to be launched next year in 2015. And the quality development tool is in a way facilitated, its adoption is promoted by peer learning clubs, which are educational circles among mobility coordinators with the coaching support from our side, with the purpose of sharing experience, tools, resources used by mobility coordinators in the different phases of the mobility exchange. Another dimension is cooperation models, which looks at how educational providers can cooperate with each other, how can they foster cooperation with the business world. And in this heading, I would like to mention this experience of a regional center for learning mobility, which we supported its establishment in 2013 in the region of Sardinia. It's called Move Sardinia. And the interesting aspect of this initiative is that the regional authority is engaged, is involved. This is their own initiative. And we believe that having the regional authority as a promoter of this action is very important, very strategic, because, as you know better than me, all the many policies and active measures in the field of education, youth and employment are decided at regional level. And so the purpose from our side is to embed, to integrate an international dimension in such policies and investments made at regional level. So there are some other experiences like Emilia-Romagna, also in Italy, have established a similar regional center called Mobilitas. And currently we are trying to create a network of regional centers of mobility. So trying to promote this concept, we have discussed with Guadeloupe, with Wales, with Istanbul. By the way, I don't know if Turkey have signed the bilateral agreement already. It's on the way. Very good. Good news. Thank you very much. So if you are aware about some regional authorities who could be interested in having these discussions, please let us know and we will approach them. Then another aspect or bottleneck is indeed the funding schemes, because we believe that if we want to achieve those objectives we were discussing earlier, education and training 2020, 20% of higher education and 6% of VET, the EU programs, Erasmus+, even if we are doubling the volume of funding, will not be enough. So we do need additional resources to be able to cope with this big challenge. So in this respect, we approached some banks, not big ones, but small local ones. And in 2013, we managed to convince 2 of them in Italy to create a personal loan specifically conceived for mobility schemes. And one of them, it is at 0 interest rate. So basically the bank did it only for social responsibility, and the purpose of the loan is mainly to cope with the cash flow problem that you might, as a youngster, encounter when you go abroad. You have to advance 1 or 2 months deposit for the renting, and so the funding, European funding, arrives later. So that was the purpose of this initiative, in a small scale, but still. And then what we try to do within our thematic commission is to try to promote EU programs as benchmarks in local investments, because we believe that, for example, Leonardo da Vinci scheme and approach and procedure is very effective, has a lot of experience. So these regional authorities that are starting to invest at local level or regional level funding, instead of reinventing the wheel, would consistently would be important to adopt this kind of approach. So I am trying to move very fast to my conclusions, and I would like to share. What about the timing? Okay, nearly there. 11 minutes. So I would like to share with you three main remarks. So the first one is this picture from Raphael, from the Renaissance, how Raphael was imagining and painting the School of Athens, the Academia. So if you go in Rome, you will see this. But if Raphael was here today, maybe this is how he would picture the Academia, with everyone with mobile phones and tablets and everything. Maybe also the clothes have changed more or less, but still. So we expect in the future that indeed virtual mobility will be more embedded into learning mobility schemes, coupling and accompanying physical mobility, as well as we believe, we hope, we're trying to promote that there will be a more professional approach in managing learning mobility schemes, moving from the current Excel file that many mobility coordinators use, typing by hand the name, surname, and whatever for their beneficiaries, into a more professional mobility online tool, enabling mobility coordinators to set individual learning outcomes, tracking the progress, managing the workflow with the host companies, and so forth. So we are working on this, and we hope to launch the Euromobility app in 2014. The second reflection that I would like to share is about the internationalization of VET. So in this respect, we believe that especially those countries, those regions who have invested in VET, which is unfortunately not the case for every member state, are now promoting a stronger international dimension within their VET systems. Not only embedding international dimension in the teaching practices, in the training of their staff members, but also actually selling selling vet systems, like in this case, this Tianjin Spanish Basque Chinese school, where they have exported their educational system in China from one side, and in parallel also selling vet education for incoming students. So again, we believe it's possible in systems like Denmark or others that have a strong infrastructure. But in this respect, we believe that we anticipate that some support is needed in terms of visa, in terms of structuring promotional activities, and we believe that there's some work to be done in that respect. Last remark, and I'm closing with a critical note. I put here a quite negative word, that is lost generation. So basically what I wanted to say here is that if you go into this bus, this mobility bus, you will observe that there is a transition from elite beneficiaries to youngsters with fewer opportunities. So currently in the coming years, more and more youngsters with fewer opportunities will be involved in mobility schemes. And we may discuss what does it mean, fewer opportunities. Now what I would like to underline is that we believe that indeed there are less opportunities for our youngsters, and it is our responsibility to provide support in this respect. Just let me share this personal anecdote. My father graduated in engineering at the University of Bologna in the 60s. And when he finished his university, he received 100 job offers. If you graduate today in a university or in a vet system and you send out 100 requests for work, you get very few replies. So it is a challenge. This shift implies the need for us, for educators, to adopt innovative pedagogical approaches. But we are here to take this challenge on board. We are here to promote mobility, as it is a very strong pedagogical instrument to promote self-empowerment and also to promote social cohesion. So I finished my presentation. I would like just to say, as Madame the Commissioner said, as long as I breathe, I have hope. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Tirati, for your interesting talk and especially for your visions as well. You are part of the Erasmus generation, but it's also nice to see the School of Athens in the 21st century. Thank you. Our next speaker is Mark Boez, Director of the Professional Open Youth Work in Europe, who will talking about the plus of the title of the programme. And someone told me over coffee that the plus causes problems in the URL internet links. So it's something we need to hear about. Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Mark Boes. I have to start with a confession. I'm not part of the formal education system. I'm a youth worker. I live part-time in the Netherlands, where I run an organization for youth work in Rotterdam. And the other part of my life is happening in Vienna, where I'm director of Professional Open Youth Work, which is a relatively new association for youth work in Europe. And when I put this together, I was thinking it's fine to put a picture of myself on the screen, but now I'm not that sure anymore. I called my presentation talking about the plus, and that is, of course, suggesting that youth work is the plus in the program, which is, of course, provoking and not completely true. But since Erasmus wrote a book called Praise or Follies, and he was doing exactly the same by making everything bigger and provocating, and he got away with it because it was a way to say things which you normally cannot say. And the fact that we're both born in Rotterdam, I was thinking I could give it a try. Youth work is not only about giving young people a second chance, it's also about giving a third and a fourth chance. Youth work is open to all young people, but it's no wonder that we all know that youth work is also attracting a lot of young people with lesser opportunities. Or, to put it more bluntly, difficult youth. And Youth work is a great tool to actually work with this kind of youth to try to improve their situation. Youth work is by definition non-formal learning. And there is where the problem starts. It's very difficult to prove that non-formal learning is making a difference, because you do not do an exam at the end, you do not get a diploma. You can say this person probably learned something, but try to prove it. Well, to make it a bit more clear today, I decided to bring some of my young people, but I could not put them all on the plane, so I brought some photos and their stories. Allemaal. Okay, years ago I was at a youth exchange in Luxembourg, and in the coffee break I was talking with a group of young people, and they were asking me, are you traveling a lot? And I told them, yes, I do, for work mainly. And then they were asking me, what are you doing? I said, well, you go to meetings, and then you have speeches, and you listen, and sometimes you can ask a question, and sometimes you even have a workshop, and you can say something. And they were looking at me, and they were saying, and you like that? And I said, yes. And they thought that I was a very strange person. But one of the girls present said, well, I can understand that probably it is useful to do that kind of things. So I asked her, well, could I ask you a favor? Can you come in 2 months' time to a meeting of professionals, of professional youth workers? Try to explain what this meeting has done with you. And she did came, and she liked it. And just before she had to make her little speech, she was preparing. And she was asking me, Mark, why are you always talking about non-formal education? What is it? I said, well, it's doing things which are basically nice to do, fun, but you're still learning something. And she said, okay, I understand, but I do not like the term non-formal learning. And I said, why don't you like the term? She said, it sounds so formal. And then I said, well, then you come up with another word. Find something yourself which makes it clear. And she did, and during her speech she called it learning by not learning. Another project we did is a group of young people doing basically, I will not go into details, something back for society. We had one of them who was suddenly gone, and we were thinking, where is Mr. X gone? And then we found that Mr. X was not there anymore because Mr. X was in jail. He did something bad. And then they released him, and we literally picked him up in front of the jail, and we took him with us, and he started to do volunteer work. And he also was at the same moment still part of the group who was doing the project. This project ended with traveling to Romania, where they, together with their peers who were living there, were repainting the local school. Once again, it was redoing something for society. And then when they were finished, the last afternoon before they left to go back to the Netherlands, they were going to, because this was a very small city, to a bigger city, and in this bigger city there was a McDonald's. My volunteer, in the meantime, already had worked for McDonald's in the Netherlands. He knew how things are functioning with McDonald's, because McDonald's functioning all over the globe the same way. And they went to McDonald's, and there was a security guard outside who said that the guy from the little village could not enter. And it was a kind of tense situation, which led to the fact that the Dutch guy said, no, it's my friend, he's coming with me. And they went inside. And inside they started to talk to the manager of McDonald's. And of course, because he knew that the little numbers you have with your Big Macs means how many minutes are left before they are thrown away, he could easily get into a conversation. Which led to the fact that in the end, the guy from the little village was offered a part-time job at McDonald's. And my Dutch volunteer was in the train back totally happy with that, because he literally was saying to one of my youth workers, for once I did something positive, I did something for somebody else, I made a difference. This guy, I mean this is years ago, nowadays has a chain of 30 supermarkets in the Netherlands. Believe me, his income is much better than mine. And he has a special program in the supermarket to employ difficult young people. Is that non-formal education at work? I cannot prove it. But perhaps it helped. For time reasons, I skipped part of the photos. EVS. I'm very happy that it's still in the program, because everybody who have done EVS will tell you that it's a life-changing experience. Going to live in another country, being able to handle the culture shock, which you still will have if you are going around in Europe, learning another language, learning how the supermarket is working, is definitely non-formal education. Little story, 3 years ago I had a group of EVS'ers starting at a project as that. One of the guys came from Portugal and he was really silent all the time. So after 2 days I asked him, why are you so silent? And he was not reacting. I said, is something wrong? And then he looked me in the face and he said, I want to go home. And I said, okay, I can understand, we can do that, but probably we need a couple of days to find you a ticket which we can afford. So try to make the best out of the couple of days that you will have here. And he said, okay, I will do that. And actually it took us a week before we could ship him back. And he did grow in that week, and he did grow. And the day before he would go back, he said, Mark, can I have a talk with you? I said, yes, I would like to stay. This guy, after his EVS, he went first to Germany to visit another EVSer he knew from the project. Then he went on to Austria to work for half a year in a youth hostel. Then he went for 2 months on a holiday in Italy before he went home. For him, things are definitely changed. Last thing I want to say something about is that I'm very happy that the fact that youth work and youth workers can keep on working on a European level together is very important. One of the examples I brought for you for this is actually a picture of a project in West Austria, Dornbirn, very close to the Switzerland border and the German border, where young unemployed boys and girls are doing two things. They're producing designer bags and they are restoring wooden boats. And actually the customers are paying for this and the young people are paid for their work. And actually I saw years ago in 2010 at an expert meeting on youth work a presentation of this project. And I got inspired because I was thinking this is really doing something against youth unemployment. So we started the same project in Rotterdam. The target group is a bit different. We are working with former homeless young people. And of course they don't make boats but bikes, since we're Dutch. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, for that interesting talk, which had a lot of life-changing experiences in it, talking to us about non-formal learning and education, and reminding us that we are here for the young people. Thank you. Our next speaker is Madame Saarenkila, who very politely said I could call her Marit. Thank you. Who is from Finland, who is the international coordinator of Omnia, and she's going to talk to us with her talk. But I believe, Marit, when I was looking through the papers, that you have both worked and studied in America and Ireland, and you are now the international coordinator at the Omnia College in Espoo region. And the talk of your paper that we're looking forward to is to promote the good quality of mobility in adult education. Thank you.
Hello, and I warmly greet you all, despite of the fact that it was minus 15 in Helsinki yesterday and minus 30 in the Finnish Lapland. I came here to charge my batteries. Thank you. So I don't come from national agency. I don't work for our National Board of Education. I'm coming from a college, upper secondary level vocational college, and I work there now as an international coordinator. And what I mean by this is that my point of view will be very practical. I'm dealing with these mobility issues in every day, sending students, receiving students, writing applications, coaching, preparing, and so on. So I try to keep in mind that I think now of my adult students. So actually I read through the whole Erasmus guide. It was 263 pages, and there was this list why adult students or adult staff should go abroad and have these exchanges. And actually it is a very good list because I tested it with my students. They have pretty much the same wishes and ideas when they put an application to have a mobility abroad. So they usually want to challenge themselves. They even want to experience an adventure. Maybe they want, of course, to increase their professional experiences, improve the languages, and so on. But sometimes with the adult students or trainees, it's their first time ever chance to go abroad, and they challenge themselves. I have had students who are mothers for 4 children, and they finally, I will take this chance. I left my children, I left my husband, and I will take this month for myself. And it's very nice experience for them. Right now, Omnia is a college for 10,000 students, so it means that it's one of the biggest in Finland, southern part of Finland, near our capital. About half of all the students are adults. We have an apprenticeship office, we have a workshop education type of trainees for the young ones, and we also have an innovation center where we have entrepreneurs. So we can, actually it is a challenge now for us that how we can put all these, our departments kind of in the one application so that I can guarantee for all the staff members, all the students, the possibility, those who are willing to go, to have the mobility. I skip a couple of slides, but this is my everyday, one of the everyday jobs that I need to think how the adult students or sometimes, of course, even the staff, how they cope with the financing if they go abroad for a month, for example. They have loans and rents and tasks to do at home. And we have some adult students, if they get an allowance from the unemployment office, the unemployment office don't allow them to go abroad. They want them to have the trainee in Finland. So there is a couple of challenges to solve so that it is really possible for those who are willing to go. Sometimes it is if they are working, sometimes adults are working during the daytime and they are having the school training in evening time. It's almost it's not possible to figure out how they manage to do this. So there is also challenges for us as an organization. Sometimes the fear comes out. Students tell me that they are not comfortable with the language skills. They have never used the English language, even though they have had that in school. And of course, the other languages are even more challenging. So it means that we need to help them to prepare themselves also within these language skills. But maybe the last thing I want to say is that you probably know that Finland has been very eager to take the easy ECVET system in use, and that will happen in August this year, and the whole Finland, every single city and school will take the system. It means that all the projects we are planning now, it has something to do with this easy wet system. And for you, I hope that you consider at least taking part of this system to use, because it can solve some of the problems with the recognition and the recognition of non-formal education and also the prior learning. And it makes really the mobility more qualitative, because we are using already now this Memorandum of Understanding agreement documents, we are using learning agreements, and we really try to get the learning pathway for the adult students real, so it is possible. And it means that the job of teachers are totally changing. It's not anymore so much classroom face-to-face teaching. It's more coaching and tutoring and discussion with the students. And also we have to figure out how those students who already know a lot of stuff, they have skills, how they fit in our system. Do we have learning platforms for them? Do we have extended on the job learning periods? Yes, we do, but we still need to better the system on that way. And only maybe 2 words of the teachers. We are sending our staff also abroad, but sometimes we need to use the money that comes from our National Board of Education, so it's not via national agencies. And we also use pretty much of our own college money. And it is planned development of the teachers' skills. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, especially to all of my colleagues who are much better at timekeeping than I am. Thank you. Appreciated. Which means we have time for questions and answers at the end. Our colleagues have been talking about the value of vocational training, young people, and adult education. So we have covered the whole spectrum of education here. So I think it would be useful to open the floor to the question and answer session, please. Would anybody like to ask a question before we carry on discussions over lunch? Do any of the colleagues who are with us here? No? Okay, in my experience, probably there'll be a lot of questions over lunch, so I apologise to my colleagues in advance if they get to talk to a lot of people, which I find to be a useful experience. Thank you for your interesting talks, which are very useful to come here. We complete the first session now before we take a break, which is for lunch until 2:30, when we will reconvene. When I opened the session, I mentioned here in the Academy of Athens, Aristotle and Alexander. Our colleagues talked very well about education, the different branches of it. If you'll allow me to conclude with Alexander's successor and colleague and schoolmate, the Ptolemaic dynasty in Egypt, and the Library of Alexandria, the place of knowledge. Today's Library of Alexandria is undoubtedly the internet. We saw how all of our talks include modern technology. Just like Erasmus+, the internet and the opportunities in education and culture are huge. It is up to all of us how we use it. I think that's the message we have received. Thank you for your time and attention, especially to our speakers for your timekeeping. Kali orexi, or as we say in English, bon appetit.
Yes.
Thank you to all of you.